Well, I am Scott Karsner, and I started this gathering with Katie and with the Schmitz back in 2000 something. 16-ish. And we used to be in at my house, and then Katie took over, and she's doing it here, and so it's pretty exciting that things are continuing to grow, which is really cool. I'm going to talk today about fat-eared bunnies, which is also known as Bunny C. Bunny A and B came out in the late 50s and early 60s, and then Bunny C came out in 1963. And so I have on the table, you guys can come up and take a look as I'm talking about stuff. I have on the table examples of different types and different stem types. And so the box patent was the very first stem type, and there are no fat-eared bunnies then. That was in the 50s and the late 40s. And then the DBP and the 2.6, those are U.S. patent numbers. The U.S. patent number is the 2.6. The DBP was made in Europe, and anybody that speaks German could probably read what DBP stands for on the sheet there.
You can't pronounce it?
I can. No, I'm not gonna try. But it's like for their patents. And so those are some of the oldest ones over on this side, and then moves toward the newer ones. And as I was sort of preparing and getting ready for this talk, basically a lot of it boiled down to like a study of the stems and the history of the stems, because fat-eared bunnies were made for so long. They're one of the longest running dispensers where they use the same head mold continuously. And so it was from 1963 to somewhere in the mid-90s. They don't know the exact year that it stopped, but it's somewhere around 1995-ish. And so if you start with the DVPs, and then you go to the 2.6 U.S. patent, then the 3.4 U.S. patent, which was in 1968. So some of these dispensers are pretty old. And then from there, they moved to the 3.8, and those were the ones that were made in the U.S. And again, no fat-eared bunnies were made on the U.S. stems that I'm aware of. We got a lot of vintage collectors here, so if anybody hears something I say that's a little off, let me know. But I've never seen any on U.S. stems. Those were in 1974 about. And then has a lot, and probably the most varieties, is the U.S. patent 3.9, and that's what you see the bulk of them here are, and that was in the late 70s. That's when they started. And they went through till when they started making the next patent up, which was 1990. So for the rest of the 70s and all the 80s, it was those 3.9s. You see so many because there's so many variations. So in each stem, there's usually a patent number and a country, right? And so you'll see those even on current pest dispensers. I'm going to pass around so you guys can take a look. It's just this thing about the injection mold code, and so this talks to you about a little bit about what country it was made in. And I'll just pass it around so you'll see what those little numbers are. And you guys take a look at that. I'll also pass around some fat-eared bunnies in a minute as well.
Was there any on blank stems?
On blank stems, so there's some with no patent number, and then there's some with no country number. But no double blank. No, not that I've seen. Again, it could exist. I also have a spreadsheet I'm going to pass around that shows, this is basically what I've collected over the years, and it shows per country, per stem color, and you'll see in there. And then I have a color coding about like level of proof, basically, on if it's been found in the original packaging. And the original packaging can be, it's in cello, meaning that clear cellophane stuff, on card, or on like a halo card or something like that. So I'll pass that around as well. You guys can see, actually there's two copies of that you can see. Let me start on this side. Here you go, Howard. Yeah. Also, I have, let's just look over here. Also, I have, show you guys, we'll pass these around too. These are advertising sheets that they had. These are from the late 60s and the early 70s. This is what they would use to try to sell them to the stores. So you can pass those around and take out. This is, again, it's like looking at like a primary source and seeing, hey, this is a combination that they likely made. A lot of these, unfortunately, were pre-production photographs. So sometimes when you see these ad sheets, it's like, I never made that. But so we'll pass those around as well. Take a look at those. Another one of the neat things that I like about it with variations in particular is that sometimes you have some really kind of funky, rare things on stems. For instance, this one here, I'll pass it around, you guys can see it's marbleized. And so the stem itself has these different colors of blue kind of woven through it. And you can see it on all sides. And it's just like a neat little rare thing that you can find, and obviously it'll be one of a kind because you won't be able to find the same marble in more than one. Another one of the, I guess, rarer type of things is, well, I guess let's talk about head color for a little bit. So the head colors go all the way from very, very light pink to darker pink to hotter pink. And there's also, then the yellow is the other head color that's very common, and it goes, again, from very, very pale pink to like butterscotchy type colors. And all the variants in between, just kind of meant on what was in the mold that day, what was in the dye that day, which is a fun way to find more variations as well. Another kind of rare gem type thing is when the head is completely white. And this one is really close to completely white. One of the ways I've been told to help you sort of figure that out is if you get like a Casper Pez or another one of those like just bright white ones and compare it against that. With the red here and the reflections, it might not, but if you take it out into the sun, you might see it. But we pass this one around as well. It's another fairly rare one. One more stem variation I want to talk about is these red ones. This is a 3.9 Yugoslavia, and I haven't seen this on any other dispenser except for on fat-eared bunnies. It is a red dispenser that has teeny black specks in it. And again, if you look at it in the sunlight, you'll see it a lot clearer. Under the shadows, it's a little harder. But it's neat because like I haven't seen it. I don't know if any of the other more vintage collectors have seen the speckle on any other dispenser, but I've only ever seen it also on the 3.9 Yugo.
Maybe they're from the same batch.
They possibly could be, but they're also, one of them's a little more transparent than the other one. So I'll pass these two around and you can see, maybe if you get your cell phone light out, it might help you see some of the specs a little bit more. Another thing that's a variant on them, like the newer ones, the ones that you have, the common ones you have at home and stuff, will be plastic head springs and plastic hinges. And then on the older dispensers, sometimes you have a metal head spring. And obviously those are rare the older you get. Sometimes you have a metal head spring and a metal pin. So some of these older ones, these DVPs, you'll have the metal pin on the side. It's kind of hard to see from far away as opposed to it being plastic. And you can see if you look inside that it's a teeny little metal spring. Dave, do you have a metal spring, a head spring you can bring over? Dave will show you. Sure. Yeah. And that way you can see it out when it's outside of it. Dave repairs dispensers. If you need help repairing things, he's pretty good at that. Call him the Pez doctor. So if you have any questions, I could talk for a long time about this, but I don't want to make it boring.
So did you take all your bunnies off your wall at your house?
Yep, so this is my whole bunny, actually not my whole bunny collection. I have some in cello that I didn't want to bump over here. So the cello was great. But you'll see on the spreadsheet I put around that, like which ones I have in cello,
Yeah.
and you can kind of show that, okay, that definitely is a combination that came from the factory.
Scott, are the ones at the top stem swaps or those actual colors, the black and the green?
Oh yeah,
and the
thank you.
pink?
So these here, I believe are fantasy. They're not actual
Legit.
ones. They look cool. My favorite one probably is this pink on pink on pink.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's real. I think it's a lamb stem. It's a 2.6 Austria. What?
Just gonna ask that.
Yeah.
I got one of them too.
Yeah, I don't think it's real. This is like probably a skull or something. It's that,
Yeah.
you know. And then the black ones are whatever they are. Like,
Neon.
and then this neon green one also is a really neat Easter color. I don't think it's real though. It's a Hong Kong. So, yeah, I've never seen any of those in. So Dave has over here, if you come closer, you can take a look.
You can just pass it around. You take a spring and
Okay. Yeah, for the people looking on the phone there, you can see the little spring. How about I just hold it in my hand? I'll walk it around. So you can see the little spring and the little head pin. I'll take this with me.
And yes, they are dangerous.
Yeah. So that's the little guy that'll be in the head, and this will be the pin.
Is that the one that has speckles in it?
I think so. Julie, I don't see any speckles. That's the baby there.
The blue ones, the more
I think some of the red ones had.
Yeah, I think it's
they're
red
coming
too.
around.
Okay, gotcha.
Is it the marble one? Yeah.
Leftover plastic or previous
Yeah, like they.
out of the mold machine.
Could be.
Say I can try. I'm not really showing on camera. You can try. I'm not. But Scott, if you can hear me, Scott said these ones have black specks in them. You can kind of see it on camera, but not great. You can see it better in person. Yeah, Sean, the marbled one is very good. I'll even take you up closer to show
Close, but if
you.
you hold it next to it, you're like, yeah, there's a shade of pink in there, you know. And then as far as the footed ones go, there's a couple that are right here, and the green ones that are footed are thin feet. They're very common. You can probably get those for $5 or less. And then the red stem and the blue stem I've seen in package, so to me I would consider them legitimate. That pink one again looks cool, but is not legitimate dispenser. And just to embarrass my daughter, she painted or she drew that little picture of
Yeah, I like
a
that
couple years ago
picture.
for me. Yeah,
That's cool.
She saw it coming. She dodged. She saw me, so I've at least been collecting since she was 7. So I'll leave it out, and you guys can take a look at it as we're cruising around and
Yeah.
check them out. Feel free to touch them. Just put them back. I'd like to put them back on my shelf.
That's great.
Very cool.
Yay!
No.